Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Disabilities Act now in effect. The reaction from key stakeholders. Historic Brownstown Courthouse goes up in flames. And later in sports, Jamaica's two-man bobsleigh team takes to the ice at Winter Olympics in Beijing, China today. I'm Krista Campbell and here are the details. The St. Anne Fire Department is continuing its investigation this afternoon into what could have caused a massive fire at the Brownstown Courthouse last night. Shumela Pullen has that report.
At about 8 last night, the Brownstown Courthouse in St. Anne was engulfed in flames. According to preliminary reports from the St. Anne Fire Department, the blaze, which started at the two-story building, took nearly 2 hours to contain by firefighters. Commanding officer for the parish, Deputy Superintendent Anthony Hines, says 5 units from the Brownstown, St. Anne's Bay and Ocherius fire stations were dispatched to the scene.
In addition, we got some support from the Naranda Backside Company with 1 unit. Some 30 firefighters fought the blaze. 30 firefighters fought the blaze. So we had a total of 4 units on location and 30 firefighters. As you can see, the building is extensively damaged by fire, and both the building and its contents were destroyed.
The cause has not been ascertained. The courthouse was recently refurbished. Eyewitnesses say the damage wouldn't have been so bad if more water was available at the scene.
When it comes down to the water situation, I am not sure about that. I will speak to my officers who was on the scene before me. Right now, the fire is completely extinguished now. We just completed our cooling down operation.
Meanwhile, a member of the Lay Magistrates Association in St. Anne, Fitzroy Thomas, says last night's fire will be a major setback for the justice system in the parish. Mr. Thomas lamented the destruction of court documents.
Just imagine the individuals who would have had cases being tried and they would have been at different stages. Everybody, no doubt, would have to start all over. I sympathize with those who are now grossly inconvenienced, as a result.
Shumela Pullen, TVJ News.
And members of the judiciary, including Chief Justice Brian Sykes, are in Brownstown, St. Anne right now assessing the damage to the historic courthouse. Now, court matters for today are being heard at the nearby Addison Park Sports Complex. The Combined Disabilities Association and the Jamaica Council for Persons Living with Disabilities say today is a significant day as the Disabilities Act comes into effect. Our reporter Sandy Williams has been speaking with some key stakeholders and now joins us live. Sandy?
Thanks, Krista. In October 2014, the Disabilities Act was passed in Parliament, but the regulations were not approved until late last year. Now, among other things, the Act is expected to protect people living with disabilities. Some stakeholders say that already work has started to ensure that the Act works effectively.
After months of waiting, the Disabilities Act is finally in effect. And employees at the Jamaica Council for Persons Living with Disabilities, JCPD, are elated. The Disabilities Act is expected to help reduce discrimination against persons living with disabilities and ensure their rights to education, employment, health, access to public passenger vehicles, housing, and to participate in political office and public life. Greta Williams, who has been working with the JCPD for 11 years, is visually impaired.
I'm ecstatic about it. Finally, the rights of persons with disabilities is barred. If it is barred because of discrimination, we now have a right.
Persons are breathing a sigh of relief that finally it is here. And of course, there are those who are just ready and on the ball to say, hey, you are discriminating, you need to do this to make sure that I am included. And so persons are empowered with this act. to really speak up. They now have that authority behind the conversation, not just begging people or encouraging persons. So we have moved a step up, or many steps up.
Executive Director of Combined Disabilities Association, Gloria Goff, believes the act is enough to protect persons living with disabilities.
Because it provides for the areas, the socio-economic areas that persons with disabilities are grappling with, and it provides an institution in the form of the council who is there to ensure the implementation of the act. And it also provides the Disability Rights Tribunal, which will deal with cases of alleged discrimination.
Of course, we do have the community of persons who are deaf who would want stronger language in the act that speaks to the Jamaican Sign Language, but the act does speak to the importance of having interpreters to facilitate persons who are deaf participating in society.
And the Executive Director of JCPD, Dr. Christine Hendricks, says measures are being put in place to ensure the act works effectively.
Now, on the heels of recent incidents of farm theft, the Jamaica Agricultural Society is again calling for more to be done to reduce cases of Praedial Larceny. O'Shane Masters has that report.
As the island's agricultural sector continues to face increased pressure due to a rise in Praedial Larceny, the Jamaica Agricultural Society, JAS, says new ways must be devised to counter such acts. For one, the way in which livestock is transported must be addressed.
We are advocating that these vehicles are dedicated, especially with a tag on it, that police can know that this is carrying agricultural produce. And if that is breached, the penalty should be harsh, to seize the vehicle and make an arrest.
JAS President Lenworth Fulton says what obtains now is that any vehicle with a commercial license can be used to transport livestock. He noted that that is one of the issues which aids in the theft of agricultural produce. The Agricultural Society is also calling for increased police presence at parochial markets.
And if you see a vehicle dropping off produce there, then you need to do an investigation as to where they get the produce, who they got it from, so it could trigger an investigation if a report is made about stolen goods.
He believes this initiative could be spearheaded by the Jamaica Agricultural Commodities Regulatory Authority, JACRA. Mr. Fulton is also calling for greater use of financial institutions to carry out agricultural transactions.
I think we have reached the stage where we need probably a website, probably could be maintained by RADA, where a farmer don't have to take his animal anywhere. You put it up for sale on an electronic platform, because you know today, farmers, that you cannot walk around with 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 in your pocket looking cows to buy. Just a couple months ago, 2 were killed in the Runaway Bay area, and many have been killed over a short period of time. So we have to use the banking system.
It's estimated that Jamaica loses $5 to $6 billion annually due to the practice. Just last week, Agriculture Minister Pernell Charles Jr. insisted that his ministry is taking Praedial Larceny seriously. In the Clarendon Police Division, officers there have been asking farmers to put measures in place to secure their farms, such as fencing or CCTV cameras. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
And we take a break now, but stay tuned for more stories when the Midday News returns. Welcome back to the Midday News. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton is reiterating the need for mask wearing among Jamaicans as the country continues to navigate its way out of the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Tufton was speaking at a Ministry of Health function on Friday, where some 2 million disposable masks were distributed to several key entities and vulnerable groups across the island. Shemela Pullen reports.
Some countries around the world have started to lift the ban on COVID-19 protocols, including the wearing of masks. And locally, some have joined the debate about whether the government should follow suit. But at a Ministry of Health function on Friday, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton said even as the government sought to lift restrictions, mask wearing will continue for some time.
The truth is, masks work. The science behind it suggests that. The experts have said it and concluded. I fully understand the anxieties that some may have around not wearing or discontinuing wearing masks, but the truth is they work. They protect us.
During that function, some 2 million masks were distributed to several key entities.
Public health institutions, the church, community-based organizations, the police, the JDF and others. And the intention really is to encourage mask wearing as we approach the final stage of the fourth wave and hopefully the final phase of COVID-19 as a major threat to our population. We can be hopeful, but we should not get complacent.
Last week, Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced that all students could go back to face-to-face learning after the midterm break. Education Minister Favour Williams, who was also at the Ministry of Health function, welcomed the move as the education sector continues to grapple with the pandemic.
The health and the education of our children is a collective national responsibility, and we must continue the national efforts to support the system. Everyone knows that we have all been severely challenged over the past nearly 2 years by the COVID-19 pandemic and the disruptions it has caused. Individually and collectively, we need to do all we can to stop the spread of the virus and its variants. And so this gift today of masks, the 2 million masks, this gift is particularly appreciated.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.
11 more people have died from COVID-19 in Jamaica, increasing the death toll to 2,750. 3 more deaths are being investigated by the Health Ministry. Jamaica's COVID-19 positivity rate is now at 15%. The Ministry of Health says 109 COVID cases were confirmed yesterday from 1,801 samples. The overall case count is now 127,163. Hospitalizations have decreased to 323. 39 people are severely ill, while 16 are in critical condition. There are now 3,168 active COVID-19 cases on the island. 637,767 people are now fully vaccinated against the virus. And it's now time for the Business Minute.
The RGR Gleaner Communications Group saw less profit and revenue for its third quarter, which ended in December. Net profit amounted to $108 million compared to $194 million during the corresponding period in 2020. Revenue dipped by 2% to $1.45 billion. The media group says this was due to a 7% decline in revenue from its audiovisual segments. This countered increases in its print and audio segments. RGR Gleaner says companies were less inclined to spend on advertising during the December quarter due to uncertainty surrounding the fourth wave of COVID-19. And the Development Bank of Jamaica DBJ expects to disburse more loans during the new fiscal year, which starts in April. The bank is aiming to lend $9.5 billion, up from the estimated $4.1 billion in total disbursements during the 2021-2022 fiscal year. The DBJ says for the new fiscal year, total assistance should amount to $35.9 billion. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm O'Shane Masters.
Time now for the top regional and international stories with Sandy Williams.
In regional news, Haiti's Prime Minister Dr. Ariel Henry says he will support sending suspects held in connection with the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse to the United States for trial, if requested by American law enforcement agencies. In an interview with the Miami Herald newspaper over the last weekend, Henry, who again denied any involvement in the death of Moïse, said if the Americans made a request for the extradition of the suspects, they will have the full cooperation of the nation. President Moïse was shot and killed at his private residence on July 7 last year. Since then, a number of people, including former Colombian military officers as well as Haitian Americans, have been detained in connection with the murder. On the international scene, gunmen in Mexico have killed 9 people, mourning the death of a man who died in jail last week. The 9 were killed in 2 attacks in the northern city of Ciudad Juarez. Assailants first burst into into a private home where friends and family had gathered for the wake of the inmate and shot dead 2 women and a man. Hours later, the premises where the funeral service for the same man was being held were targeted by attackers who killed 6 more people. Witnesses said the gunmen stormed into the home, which doubles up as an evangelical church, as a pastor was holding the funeral service. Among those killed were a 12-year-old boy and his father. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
And we head to a quick break now. When we return, Simon Preston will have your Midday Sports report.
Welcome back. It's now time for Midday Sports. I'm Simon Preston. Jamaica's a 2-man bobsleigh team of Shanwayne Stevens and Nimroy Turgot finished last in 30th position in the heats of the 2-man bobsleigh event at the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing, China today. The duo finished with a combined time of 2 minutes 02.58 seconds. In Heat 1, they clocked 1 minute 01.23 seconds, while in Heat 2, they produced a slower 1 minute 01.35 seconds. They finished a shade over 4 seconds behind the leaders Francisco Friedrich and Thorsten Margis from Germany. Stevens and Turgot will return to the ice for Heat 3 at 7:15 on a Tuesday morning Jamaica time. They will need to finish in the top 20 in order to advance to the medal round. Jamaica's participation in the 4-man bobsleigh event is slated for Friday evening Jamaica time. Back locally now, as 5-time winners Arnett Gardens will face Vere United in action from the Jamaica Premier League this afternoon. Arnett Gardens are 5th in the table on 5 points, while Vere United are 9th on 3 points. Kick-off is at 3:15. At 1 o'clock, Montego Bay United will play Tivoli Gardens. Jamaica's under-20 reggae girls will open their account in the CONCACAF Women's Under-20 Championship against Guatemala on February 26 in the Dominican Republic. CONCACAF revealed the fixture list today, which will see the under-20 girls then face Cuba on February 28 and then close out the group stages on March 2 against Haiti. The top 3 teams from each group will advance to the round of 16 of the competition. The top 3 teams from there will qualify for the FIFA Women's World Cup in Costa Rica in August. Jamaica's best finish at a CONCACAF Women's Under-20 Championship was 4th back in 2006. Down under now, as Reggae Boys defender Adrian Mariappa has scored 2 goals in as many games for MacArthur FC in the Australian A-League as his side went down 3-1 to the Brisbane Roar over the weekend. The 35-year-old scored a consolation for MacArthur in the 74th minute. Despite the defeat, Mariappa and MacArthur FC remains 6th in the A-League. Mariappa signed a 1-year deal with the Australian club in November. Mariappa has made 60 appearances for the Reggae Boys since his debut in 2012. And that is it for your Midday Sports Report. I'm Simon Preston. Krista, it's over to you.
All right, thank you, Simon. So bobsleigh at the Winter Olympics, the Jamaican team not looking so good in the heats?
Yeah, it's very disappointing. They had a couple of hiccups in the way that they started and also hitting the corner a couple of times. But tomorrow, their final chance to really get into the top 20 and go for a chance for a medal. But yeah, difficult opening day for them.
And what time is the event tomorrow?
7:15 Jamaica time tomorrow morning. That's when we'll have Heat 3, so they're going to have to pull up their socks to get better.
All right, thank you. And before we leave, we have the preview of a Primetime News In Focus report on sidewalks.
Sidewalks, a dangerous path? From illegal vending to dumping.
Sometimes sewage water is out there and people can't use the sidewalk, so they have to be using the road.
Is the government's urban plan short-sighted?
I happened upon a deep hole in the road, in the sidewalk.
We would be getting a failing grade.
Cracked concrete. Are the sidewalks safer than the streets? A TVJ In Focus special report starting Monday, February 14th.
Join us at Primetime News for that special In Focus. And that's the Midday News. I'm Krista Campbell. And on behalf of the news, sports and production teams, I wish you a good afternoon.